Hello and welcome to Films on Trial Film Reviews. I'm Gav and I'll be providing a spoilerific review of the 2019 film Serenity. Why not play along at home and try and count how many fishing and angling terms I name in this review? But before we go on, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Films on Trial so you can stay notified on all of our shenanigans. Serenity is written and directed by Stephen Knight, the creative force behind smash BBC TV shows Taboo and Peaky Blinders. It stars Matthew McConaughey as essentially Matthew McConaughey, or technically Baker Dill, a desperate fisherman. Jarman Hunsu as Duke, his first mate and best chum. Anne Hathaway as Karen, Baker's ex-wife. Jason Clarke as Frank, Karen's abusive new husband. And Diane Lane as Constance, Baker's somewhat companion. When we are first introduced to Baker, we see him as a man on the brink. He hasn't had much luck catching fish recently, and there is one giant tuna that keeps on evading him. When his ex-wife Karen appears on the scene, she gives him the opportunity to turn the tide by offering him $10 million to lure her abusive new husband out to sea and kill him. Where do I begin with the many, many faults of this film? I'd say the biggest flaw is the floating turd of a story. It is convoluted, drawn out, and frankly uninspiring. The characters are all terribly written, and their motivations, especially Baker's, are unclear throughout most of the film. We don't know what Baker's angle is. Why is he so desperate to catch this giant tuna? Why did he and Karen's relationship break down? Why does he not see his son? Why does he turn down Karen's offer for $10 million, but then bites at Frank's offer to take him out on his boat for $10,000? Why does he fire Duke only to subsequently rehire him a couple of scenes later? Why should the audience care about any of this? The film resembles an old noir thriller, but Stephen Knight has tried to hook the audience in by inserting too many twists and turns that are obvious and forced at best, and head-scratching and bizarre at worst. When Baker and Karen reconnect, we learn that they have a son together called Patrick, and that he is also being abused by Frank. Frank later tells Baker that the kid spends hours upon hours playing on a simulated fishing game. Throughout the film, Baker is attempted to be contacted by a mysterious man who looks like if an adult Harry Potter worked for the IRS. When the man finally catches up to Baker, he informs him that, you guessed it, Baker is part of the simulated fishing game his son plays, and that it's against the game's rules to kill somebody in it. After a couple of lifted scenes from The Truman Show, Baker gets over the fact he is a computer game character pretty quickly. However, he is faced with a dilemma: help out his ex-wife and son by killing Frank, or risk ending the game and his existence by going against the rules. This is resolved all too quickly, to be honest. Even after Frank's hand has been turned into mashed potato after an assault organised by Duke to try and stop Baker going through with the murder, Baker tells Karen to fill Frank with painkillers and rum and bring him aboard the boat. As the film sinks to a finale, we are shown parallel scenes of Baker hooking the big tuna and coercing Frank to take hold of the rod, and also of a different scene of Patrick picking out a hunting knife from, I imagine, his dad's old tackle box and walking closer towards the sound of Frank beating his mother in the next room. As Frank takes hold of the rod in one scene, he is pulled into the water by the tuna and dies. Simultaneously, Patrick goes knife happy on Frank to protect his mother. We then later hear in a news report that Frank died, obviously. Baker and Karen's son was acquitted of the murder, and Baker is actually called John Mason, and he was a soldier who died in combat years before. And as for the fishing game, there were no ramifications whatsoever for Frank's death. Patrick then calls Baker somehow and tells him that he's going to change the game because obviously he's a computer whiz, and subsequently he later writes himself into the game so he and his father can reunite and go fishing. Oh my god. The entire story is just a complete mess, made so much worse by the warm diarrhea that is the dialogue. There's a barman, a tackle shop owner, and there's a radio DJ who all speak in nothing but expository dialogue. Also, some of the information they reveal would have been completely impossible for them to know. The main character's dialogue doesn't fare much better, with a lot of obvious spoon-bill feeding mixed in with some very laboursome carping on. As for the performances, nobody in this cast comes away unscathed. This is a stink that is going to take a long time to clean off. They all look as if they're just there for a big payday and a nice sunny holiday. Anne Hathaway comes the closest to giving any sort of performance, but her character is so terribly written that it honestly doesn't matter. If Knight wanted to tackle the old noir thriller genre, it would have been more refreshing to have decent female characters. Hathaway's character is nothing more than a damsel in distress, whilst Diane Lane is so criminally underutilised to the point that she is just a booty call. In conclusion, this film starts off treading water, and with no life raft in sight, soon sinks to the bottom of the riverbed without a trace. So what's my verdict? Well, I give this film 1 chocolate frog out of 5. A lukewarm and misshapen one at that. So what did you think? Did you agree with the review? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can listen to Films on Trial on any podcasting platform, and why not check us out on Twitter @FilmTrials. And before I leave you, it's time for some trivia. Uma Thurman was originally cast before dropping out and being replaced by Diane Lane. Probably the best career choice Thurman has made since Pulp Fiction. And for all those counting at home, 12 fishing and angling terms were used in this review. So, until next time, goodbye.